Traditionally, justice in America has been, for the most part, retributive, in which crime is defined as an act against the state, not individuals. Offenders are punished and removed from society. Victims feel powerless, and the community is left with a lot of unanswered questions. In recent years, in an effort to create change in the justice system, a new philosophy is being introduced that is attempting to find a common ground for victims, the community, and offenders. Restorative justice is a set of principles and practices that seeks to repair the harm of crime and wrongdoing through giving victims a voice, through holding offenders accountable while helping to return them to a place in society, and through involving victims, offenders, and community members in a process of rebuilding for the future. The success of restorative justice in finding creative solutions to crime, reducing recidivism, and restoring communities is now prompting educators to look at integrating the principles and processes of restorative justice into established discipline and violence prevention programs in schools to help deal with the problems of misbehavior and conflict that students, teachers, and administrators encounter every day. Problems of harassment, of property damage, of truancy and theft, of confrontation and intimidation. Problems that inflict real harm, that damage relationships, foster feelings of hurt and anger, and that strain resources and expend time and energy that could be better used for learning. Problems that can harm the climate of the whole school. Formal school discipline measures, writing referrals, suspension, expulsion, involving law enforcement, filing charges, all seek to put a stop to problem behavior so that a climate of learning can be maintained. But sometimes these measures can have unintended negative consequences.
Most of these kids to go home and there aren't any consequences. It's more like a 3-day vacation, so it's like they're rewarded for the behavior to begin with.
So those are all negative from certainly the educational standpoint. As we lose them, we don't have them in the classroom, we can't help them.
It seemed like everybody's throwing me out of different, I went to so many different schools that I'm so far behind.
So while I'm steadily getting kicked out of school, it's also affecting me a different way with the system.
Generally speaking, in the particular areas such as we work and live in here, a lot of single-family homes, you find the majority of those parents are working. And so the student or the person that's been expelled or suspended from school is home alone. And they have those idle times, and those idle hours is when they go out and start committing crimes.
After a couple of years, we just started stealing cars, breaking into houses and stuff.
Started smoking marijuana and drinking and stuff, basically hanging out.
And that's where we then encounter them over and over and over again. And so some of those kids, unfortunately, we lose because no one really takes an interest.
They're emotionally starved for someone just to say, hey, I believe in you, I believe in your abilities. Unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot of time like that, and there are too many students that need that kind of personal attention, and we fall short.
What they're doing when they send a kid home or suspend them is throwing them away. And then that's the way the kid looks at it. That, I'm being thrown away, so who cares?
And once you don't care anymore.
While traditional discipline measures will always have a place in stopping seriously disruptive behavior in schools, restorative justice measures can strengthen the basic aims of traditional models by addressing school and victim safety, by reducing reliance on suspension and expulsion, by reintegrating offending students back into the school community, and by reinforcing existing conflict resolution and violence prevention programs. At the Dynamics of Change Transitional School in North Minneapolis, former Minnesota Viking Oscar Reed is working with classroom teacher Greg Lucas to institute proactive restorative justice processes in an effort to help change students' behavior.
The work that we're doing in schools is more preventive. It's what we're trying to do is teach kids how they can handle issues and situations before it happens, before it get out of hand.
Start the circle. I'm just going to start it.
We were introduced to it. We were then trained on using the circle. We began to employ this program in the classroom.
My name is Oscar, and we speak with kindness.
My name's Andre, and whatever you say here, stay here.
We were able to begin to see results from the kids who were involved in the circle where they felt as though they were being empowered, really, to begin to say what they thought about their lives and also give them some vision as to where they wanted to go.
We had a good circle last week, actually. We had a great circle.
A lot of times we think that the only thing the students are dealing with is my homework. No, kids deal with a great deal of issues and they need to be heard, and a lot of times they don't want to take it to their parents. So what better way? We have a kid in-house for 6 hours to begin to talk about issues that are affecting them in their everyday living.
I felt bad because it was stupid and everything.
We as educators have to embrace that, especially going into what we've seen over the past in Arkansas, in Colorado, and other areas of the country. If kids were given an opportunity to talk about some of the things that were affecting them or maybe what they were thinking about other than the curriculum, I truly believe that a lot of things would not be as volatile as they have been. A lot of times students need to talk with adults as well as with other students so that we can diffuse issues before they become blown out of proportion, and then we know what can happen from there.
At Fairview High School in Boulder, Colorado, students form the Student Conflict Hearing Board, which uses restorative justice measures to deal with problems of harassment that they felt were not being adequately solved by traditional methods.
It seemed like everything they were doing was suspending someone, then they would come back and continue what they were doing, and then get suspended and then come back and continue what they were doing. And we wanted to create something to help deal with that. So we created a board that's based around restorative justice, which is a circle model of self-discipline.
So what we're going to do now is we're going to go around the circle and we're going to have everybody talk about how they were affected by this situation. The idea behind restorative justice is that it involves the whole community, and the idea is to solve the problem rather than just punish it. So our purpose is to sort of come up with solutions that are more relevant, to talk to all the people involved, the victim, the offender, just people involved in the community, and figure out what people can do to make the situation better for everybody.
This Level 4 classroom at Franklin Middle School in Minneapolis begins each school day with a talking circle using restorative justice principles.
Behavior is a big issue in this classroom, and it results in a lot of suspensions normally. So we were looking for an alternative to suspensions and something that we could use to maybe do some problem solving as a group rather than one-on-one in our classroom.
What happened yesterday, we can talk about the person that if he was messing with me the whole week.
I think it works a lot better than what we were doing before because everybody's involved in it. Everybody has a say in the decision, and everybody has the right to say how it's making them feel or how it's affecting them, so that you can see your behavior is not only just affecting you and another person, but it's affecting the whole community and how it changes everybody in that community.
In the community of South St. Paul, Minnesota, the school district has initiated a program offering restorative justice as an option for every grade level. Restorative Justice Coordinator Mary Tichu explains the philosophy behind the program.
We've got a community right here with diversity and with many generations and many different beliefs, but one umbrella of beliefs that we have about we're here to educate all kids. So restoring the justice in a school is about having kids accountable, kids supported, staff accountable, staff supported, and having a system or a process for how people can talk together.
So we use circles quite a lot to talk with one another, and that way we become a community in our classroom, and it makes it easier to learn, because we can't learn if we're not feeling good about where we are and what we're doing, and it makes teaching a lot more fun too.
We asked staff if there was a need. Staff said, yeah, we've got way too many discipline referrals. We're losing contact time with kids in class because of fights on the playground. So staff wanted it, and since staff wanted it, it was handed. It was never forced. It's been a process that aligns with the formal system of discipline. Again, it's a choice.
Rishel Middle School in Denver chose to include restorative justice measures in their discipline model as a way to enhance existing conflict resolution and violence prevention programs.
In the past, it used to be that the school handled all the problems. If something happened in the school, then the school hierarchy would take care of it, whether they were suspended for a few days or expelled for fighting or other major crimes and stuff like that. Now with restorative justice, what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring in, for example, if it's a teacher and a student type problem, we try to bring the teacher and the student together and understand their problems. And then what we try to do is we bring in other staff members that might be for the teacher or also for the student, and we have people that help each other out, and it balances out and understand how it affects us all.
Out of this. If you don't
For that, I didn't really think about it as much as I do now. It helped me realize that I can't just push it off to the side or anything. I have to face it.
It's just better this way instead of like getting suspended and getting in trouble with your parents and stuff. Right here, you could just resolve it without any referrals or anything.
Restorative justice is a tool. It's not the answer to all their problems. But it's a very effective tool when used alongside of a traditional discipline model, helping turn behavior around of students, helping to create more listening within a school environment, helping to create more parental involvement in a school environment, building and fostering more collaboration between the community and the school. I think these are all things that restorative justice can offer to any school.
The principal of this elementary school in Thornton, Colorado, turned to restorative justice to help deal with a serious case in which a third-grade student sexually assaulted 3 of his classmates.
It was just horrible, and these girls were just scared to death, and the families were just angry, and the police were about to be brought in, and parents were thinking, I'm taking my kid out of this school. And we made all the phone calls, got everybody to agree that this was probably a pretty good process. Everybody volunteered to come in, and we sat down with the process of 2 mediators, 4 children, and about 6 parents to see if we couldn't restore the positive balance that had been in the classroom before. I think what happened with our 3 little girls, our 3 little victims, I think they were able to face their offender. They were able to tell their offender how they were feeling. They were able to get some agreements from the offender. I saw parents who really cared about their children, but they also got to witness that there were other parents in this room that also cared about their children. They were able to look at the offender's family and say that this is a mother who truly, truly cares about her child. And that this mother was very concerned about what her child had done. And that really, I think when parents got to see that, it made it okay, because then they realized they really were all on the same page. People began to work together and say, we have to help this young man. And around the circle, parents, about halfway through, parents began to say, what can we do to help this young man? What do we need? And so we began to work as a group of concerned adults. The girls were able to say, you know, I think this would help. You know, this would help me if we had this kind of a situation. And so as a group, we all built this plan, and everybody agreed to it. As a school, we didn't know what to do, because the only thing we had in our arsenal was, you know, perhaps a contract, perhaps more suspensions if it happened again. We didn't have any way of really healing the situation, and I think that's what restorative justice has really taught us, is that it's the business of healing these situations that's so important.
The desire to heal a school community affected by the theft of a student's purse prompted school administrators at Mandalay Middle School to bring together the offender, the victims, and their families to participate in a community group conference facilitated by David Clausen Wilson of the Colorado School Mediation Project.
Let's do some introductions.
In the initial stage, called pre-conferencing, the facilitator introduces the concept of restorative justice to the offender and his family, and to the victims and their families, and gets everyone's agreement to participate.
Two of you would be interested in doing? Okay.
He just explained that the restorative justice program would be a place where my son would have to sit down with all the people he affected with his crime, and through that, then he would have to face those people who he hurt.
What have you
Facing
thought about
the
since
victims, the offender begins the conference by describing what he did and talking about his thoughts and feelings about the wrongdoing.
So I took those and I gave them out to my friends. I thought I could get extra cash.
Okay. And how were you feeling about it?
Bad. I didn't know it would affect
Then
all
the
these
victims
people.
tell their side of the story and recount how the crime affected them.
And then later on that night, we found out that they tried to cash that for the money, and I felt really bad.
How did this affect your mom here?
She's home by herself because I'm at work, and that really, really frightened me. So
Family
that was my
members,
main concern,
as well
so-
as school administrators and other community members, also get a chance to tell how the situation has impacted them.
Ideas on what Josh can do to repair the
With
harm that was
everyone's
done.
input, participants
Right,
brainstorm solutions to the problem and design an agreement to repair the harm for the victims, for the offender, and for the school community.
Josh has agreed to pay $250 today to the two girls.
Throughout the program, the things that appealed to me was that A, he had to face his accusers, he had to listen to what they had to say. It was a lot more meaningful. It's more directed towards the victim and what, you know, they get something back out of it. I think it's a much more effective way to change behavior.
Restorative justice should not be just understood as another model that they can kind of bring in and it solves all the problems of the school. That it really is a whole philosophical shift in the way that they view discipline and that they view justice. And that really tries to create a culture in the school that looks at crime and conflict a little bit differently.
Community group conferences are just one of the measures that can be used when introducing restorative justice into a school community. There are many ways to include the principles of restorative justice in the everyday life of a school. To deal on the spot with disruptions in the classroom, to discuss values and promote understanding, to mediate disputes among students, to settle differences among staff, to resolve conflicts between students and teachers, to create a safer, more respectful learning environment.
What is restorative justice? Go back and do something right. There you go. There you go.
Repairing harm, promoting offender accountability, giving victims a voice, creating a safer school environment, and problem solving for the future are just a few of the many ways in which restorative justice can make things right in a school community.
Restorative justice tells us we need to get back in touch with those things that make us
a whole person. And when you teach those things, you're going to naturally respond differently to someone, you know. And I think that's how it's preventive. Because if you found out, if you know that you're a good person and that you're creative, you're resilient, and you have the ability to care and love, and if you know these things, I think you're going to treat people a little differently.
And they learn that through the circle process. These children don't come to us with the ability to have a lot of empathy, so it's a slow process, but they are learning to finally do that. They're finally learning how to put themselves in the other person's shoes.
I specifically laid out goals regarding violence, racism, sexual harassment, and trying to de-escalate before those things ever even came to be. And we tracked our discipline records. So we also, we had it voluntary, but then we also said, okay, we're going to watch how these numbers change. What we found is in this building alone, we've not only seen the office referrals drop, we've seen violent acts which were at over 7 per day as an average, to less than 1 3 years later.
What our teachers like is that the problems are resolved, and once they're resolved, they're resolved. They don't come back. See, if you haven't really dealt with it, they just become reoccurring. So I hope what we're doing is changing the way they think, the way they process incoming stimulus in terms of conflict.
And young people will take this and run with it, and I think that they will feel empowered. And that's, if we give them that fuel, they will become lifelong learners, and that's what we always strive for kids to become, lifelong learners.
I'd like to see a school where everybody feels as if they're more of a community and understands that when they act against the school, they're acting against the whole community, and including themselves.
And if we can't teach them to get along here in the school as a community, how can we expect them to get on in the outside world?
It's interesting watching the little changes, you know, like a kid coming by giving you a high five. The little changes. Like watching a kid pick up a pencil that falls on the floor and hand it back to the kid who dropped it. Whereas before, he would probably kicked it or stepped on it and broke it or thrown it away. It's the little things that make the difference.
So we're actually building strength, and we're building capacity, we're building empathy. All the things that we say we often see lacking in kids today. Restorative justice holds the promise of building these capacities in our children, so that not only are they better citizens today in this place called school, but in our communities of tomorrow. And we're building hope as well.